Okay, Cal, you're 1 from 2. You said that you thought India would scrape into the semi-finals. You're confident Australia was going to get in there. I reckon Australia have scraped through the semi-finals. India's not there. So, so.
Yeah, look, I'll take it, to be honest. I think the Australian team making it to the semis before the start of the tournament was the big call. I think the Indian call was a bit of a dabble on a $1.50 favourite, really, wasn't it? It was, it was just like everyone thought it was a lay down misère before the tournament started. So I didn't think that was much of a call. But the Australian team playing as well as they have and making it through to the semis was my crowning achievement, I think, at the start of the tournament. So I'm feeling pretty good about that one.
All right. So fair enough. Don't get cocky because we're about to do it all again. Let's go on with the show.
Beautiful.
Just in case I look awkward at any point, just want to tell you that I'm actually kneeling on the floor because I didn't bring my stand. So,
oh dear, they're going to be sore knees by the end of this.
They already are.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Timed Out for Sporting News. Callum Ferguson joining me as ever with some thoughts on what's happening in the world of cricket. Hello to anyone who's joining us live. If you are, just make sure you drop in a comment or a question in the chat box and we will try to answer it. Oh, hey. Hi, Sam Colgan. Thank you. I've had a great start to the week. Come on, Australia and lightning. Okay. Thunder and lightning?
Thunder? Lightning? Not sure. We'll get Sam Colgan to clarify that one for us. I get the feeling it might be New Zealand, maybe. I don't know. I think, is that profile pic?
It's a bolt of lightning.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Trent Bolt. But okay. The old New Zealand shirts way back in the day, bit of lightning. I don't know. I'm not sure what we're going with there, but it's been a big week in cricket, hasn't it?
Well, is it ever not a big week in cricket? But I suppose it's an especially big week when you've got semi-finals and final of a T20 World Cup coming up. Yeah, no, thunder emoji. It was the thunder emoji.
Yep.
Sam Colton,
there we go.
Okay,
we thought it was, yeah.
Clarification, did get it right. Happens occasionally. First up, we have, of course, England and New Zealand. We've got a couple of pieces on sportingnews.com.au from Abhishek Purohit and myself giving some thoughts about that, but I'm interested in yours. How do you see this one? What do you think the key factors are going to be? England, the big juggernaut with some injury issues. New Zealand just quietly going about their business like they always do.
Yeah, look, they're just so well prepared, generally really well coached and captained, and that's been the case again this tournament for New Zealand. They've probably surprised a few, but to be honest, you always sort of think they're going to be in the top 4 or 5 in the tournament whenever they front up, no matter what the form. And Kane Williamson's done a great job again for that side and helping guide them to the finals again. England, look, I just think that they're the front runners at the moment. I've got them as favourites. I think Pakistan have been fantastic. I just don't think they're quite as consistent historically as perhaps England have been. And that's as much as anything a bit of a gut feel. You can never write Pakistan off. There's no doubt about it. But certainly in this clash, England-New Zealand, I've got England as favourites for this one. They've got a big decision to make, though. Who do they replace Roy with? That's a big one because he's played such an influential role at the top. He's a guy that walks out there and stamps his authority on so many games for England and sets a tone. Josh Butler's obviously the more consistent of the two, but he can cause some carnage and chaos early in the innings with the bat, and that certainly can knock sides back on their heels. So that's a big loss. Look, my gut feel is that they'll go with Sam Billings to replace him, and David Milan will go to the top, if not in at 3 and Bairstow up to the top. that's probably the way I would go. I'd put Bairstow to the top. He's had a lot of success opening the batting in T20 cricket over his time in the game. And David Malan, he can slide in at 3. And I think that'll be a good setup for England, and it'll give them a bit of familiarity. Trying to spit that one out, and give them a really good launching pad. New Zealand, they're just so consistent in their approach. They'll make enough runs to make you earn it. They'll keep you honest with the new ball, and they've got a few strike weapons there, obviously, with the new ball. I just think that, unless Guptill makes, 80 or 90 at the top, I just can't see them making enough to keep the England side at bay. So that's my take on that game. What about you?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. I was looking at those different permutations and what they might do. There was some talk that, maybe they might bring in another, say, seeming all-rounder of the likes of Curran or David Willey. It's hard to think that they would go against the sort of what's worked for them. But Owen Morgan, he loves his analytics. I think so much will come down to that team selection of what he decides.
I definitely hogged that one. Sorry.
Yeah, you're allowed to. You're the expert, man. I'm here to look, like a teacher, apparently. Now, I see some of Joshy says 2 of the best captains in the world face off today. So, yeah, Kane Williamson and Owen Morgan, I'd say they're 2 of the calmest captains. Would you say? Both impress a lot of calm. Owen Morgan, incredibly, as I said, reliant on those analytics and the relationship with Nathan Lehman, the England analyst. Kane Williamson, he played a brilliant role at times in coming in. Things have been really difficult, and playing the anchor role that you kind of expect him to. So how do you see those 2 captains and how they might have an influence on a game? Obviously, Morgan hasn't been in great form with the bat, but he hasn't spent a lot of time at the crease either. Still managed to take CSK to a final.
Yeah, look, the 2 captains are huge reason these teams have been successful for long periods of time in white ball cricket. Obviously since the disastrous World Cup here in Australia and New Zealand for England way back when, and pretty much from that moment forward, Owen Morgan's taken the reins and really turned the fortune around for England, and they've just been a juggernaut in both T20 and 50 over cricket. So, England have got a lot to thank him for. New Zealand, well, they keep fronting up and keep playing a really competitive style, and I think that the level-headedness that you mentioned before is a huge part of why they are so consistent as teams. There's no violent peaks and troughs with these 2 teams. They just keep fronting up and getting the job done. And, I think that's where Australia is trying to get to. And Pakistan, they're probably the polar opposite of that. They throw the peaks and troughs at you, but Australia's certainly trying to be that consistent side across the 2 white ball formats. I think we're seeing 2 of the best white ball teams in the last, 5-6 years going at it in this World Cup semi-final, and in another tournament, in another month, 2 months down the track, they might have been the 2 sides playing in the final, but they're in a semi, and it's going to be a hell of a game.
Yeah, it is. Sam Colgan asks, how do England stave off the Southey Bolt Milne challenge? Especially Bolt at the moment looks like the one who is most likely, and that may be one reason that they think about Bairstow at the top, and David Malan hasn't been having a great run, but he does prefer to open, and he does start a bit more conservatively, which was the only reason I thought maybe they might sort of push him up to open. Unsure about that, but yeah, just how difficult is that challenge, do you think?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. Those guys are in great form. They're consistent performers. We know that. I'd still be taking the positive approach if I'm the English side. It doesn't swing for a huge period of time, and I think the guys, I think that Bairstow and certainly Josh Butler, they're not. Look, they're great strikers of the cricket ball. They're in great form, particularly Josh Butler. I feel like they're the two to go to the top. David Milan, you could easily open with him. It'll be a toss of the coin, I think, as to which way Owen Morgan goes there. I think that if you put Milan to the top, that's probably the more timid approach, and I don't think that's Owen Morgan. I think he'll go with Bairstow to the top to try and throw these guys off their line and length and then force them to go to Milne really early if it's not swinging. So that's how I see it panning out. I think that Owen Morgan will go the positive route and put Bairstow to the top.
Yeah, that sounds about right as well. Okay, let's get over. Well, look, I will say I'm with you. I think England are going to get through, but I don't say that with any confidence. So the next semi-final, of course, then 24 hours later we have Pakistan and Australia. All I can say with confidence about this is that I'm sure Pakistan will be serving cake at some point afterwards. Win or lose, there's always cake around the Pakistan dressing room.
It's been thrown in people's faces and all sorts. So,
why not? Winning hearts with cake, winning hearts and stomach. Pakistan, obviously, they really have been the juggernaut of this tournament. A lot of people point to the fact that no one has won this tournament going through undefeated, but I think no one ever does something until they do it as well. So how do you see this? I can see a comment from Oace who says Shaheen Afridi, 6'5" left arm fastest ball, 154.6 kilometres versus Mitchell Stark, 6'5" left arm, fastest ball, 160. That was at the WACA. I was there. That might be a really key battle, especially for Australia's batters starting to be in form again, finding runs again. But against Shaheen Afridi, who's just been unbelievable in this tournament.
Yeah, look, they both just bowl unplayable deliveries, and really, you as an opening batter, you've just got to just keep an eye on that really full ball that's going to be threatening your stumps. And if you can't keep that out, then it's there's this huge potential for them to both go bang bang and take two in the first over. So. Look, that is a huge challenge for any of the opening batters that go out there in this next game. Look, Afridi's probably been in the better form, but it's going to be a huge contest between those two. But certainly, I still feel really good about the Australian cricket team. I feel like they've got all the weapons they need, but they are coming up against a side that isn't your typical Pakistan team in my eyes. You have a fantastic mix of youth and experience in that lineup at the moment. They're playing really consistent cricket. It's not the flashy all or nothing style that we have historically seen from Pakistan cricket teams. They have some fantastic nous in that middle order. I think Hafiz and Malik have both played huge roles in a couple of games now in helping the team get over the line and get into strong positions. And then the rawness and the pace of their bowling lineup with a bit of guile in the spin department. It's a really well-rounded lineup. Australia are going to have to be at their absolute best, but I think this is when Australian cricket teams are at their best in the knockout stages when everything's on the line, and they've got some form behind them. So, look, I'm going to stick with Australia. I think they can keep marching on, but it's going to be an amazing clash, and I don't care what time they play it, I'll be watching.
Yeah, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning here it starts. It is. Yep. It is going to be a cracker. I'm going the other way. I'm going with Pakistan. I just think they're too good. Though I don't say that with any confidence either. Yeah. Just absolutely ridiculous. I see a comment from Samath Joshi. He says, "Am I the only one, or also do you think that Pakistan have been a bit lucky at some moments? No doubt they've been an exceptional team, but still." Look, luck's part of a tournament, isn't it? You could say Australia were quite lucky in being able to get through. So I think there's a bit of luck with every team, but I don't actually think that you will go through a tournament like this undefeated. Sure, toss may have helped a bit at times, but I don't think you go through a team the way they've gone through a tournament the way they've gone through this tournament based on luck. Do you?
No, look, I think that when you have a group stage style set up in a big tournament to get to the knockout stages, there's only two groups. You get to play 5 games each. I feel like it's, you're going to get the best teams making it through. You've had every chance to prove your worth. There's no second chances. If you lose one of the games to a team, you don't get to have another go at them. I understand that. However, I think you've got to be well prepared and ready to go from ball one. That's probably where we saw South Africa just miss the start slightly and spluttered against Australia, who took full toll of that. And that's the difference. Australia started well and South Africa didn't, and that was the difference. And now we get the chance to see an Australian team push deep into a World Cup again, and we get to see a Pakistan team do the same. I mean, they've just been super impressive. It's what we hope to see from a Pakistan team whenever they turn up to a big tournament, a bit like the West Indies. You hope they go deep because they just bring so much excitement and joy to the big stage events, and I'm just pumped to see Pakistan cricket there, especially after having played with a lot of those players in the PSL. That side's stacked with Lahore Qalandars there, so I'm pumped to see so many of those good mates that I made over that tournament doing so well.
Yeah, you just hope they lose the semi-final. I think they're going to lose the semi-final. I know
that'd be unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. I love them still.
That's quite okay. That's quite okay. Trio and Phone makes a good point. It's more than that. It's about being at your peak at the right time and strategy too. Yes, and I do think we're seeing sides
spot on
who are peaking. You're very right. Okay, time for our next topic. The team that won't be there in the semi-finals. Where to for India? New T20 captain now, and we have a new coach in Rahul Dravid, plus a whole host of new people on the coaching staff, with people like Bharat Arun going. So where to now for India? It sounds like they're absolutely shattered and basically need a really good rest.
Yeah, that's the feeling I get as well. And I think, look, I looked at the way that they were preparing for the tournament as being really relaxed, and they were just in a good headspace, ready to go. It turns out that the relaxed nature of their warm-ups was literally just trying to recharge the batteries and find some, a bit of quiet, not too much intensity, trying to keep themselves fresh. And unfortunately for the Indians, they weren't able to stay fresh enough, and they just looked a little bit lethargic. And they didn't miss out by much, but it was enough. And like we talked about before, and Trioon mentioned, you've got to be ready to peak at the right time. How many times do they have to peak? They have to peak more than most, because they've been at the death knell of most big tournaments. They've been in the World Test Championship final recently. They had a huge series that they were in front of in England against England. So, how many times can you keep trying to peak? And I think that they've just found that this one was just a step too far, and probably rightly so. They've been up for so long, that team, and they've got a lot to be proud of. And Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri have just done such an amazing job with that team over a long period of time. I think they've both earned a rest. There's some quality coaching in the background in India that I'm well aware of, having spent some time there. Rahul Dravid is certainly someone whose name will be thrown into the mix for the head coaching role. It'll be really interesting to see who gets interviewed and gets to the forefront of that job chase. But from a captaincy point of view, they've got plenty of options. There's so much experience in that lineup, and certainly there's look. I think Rohit Sharma's got to be right in the mix. He's a guy that has certainly... Sorry?
Yeah, I think he's going to be the captain for the upcoming series against India for the T20s. So that's definitely going to happen for Rohit. So what do you think he'll be like as a captain? I think he's been wanting that for quite a long time.
Yeah, look, I just think he seems like a very cool, calm, and collected character. And look, I'd like to think that he'll get that job even after the new coach comes in. I do wonder whether the new coach will want to say in who's captain. But certainly, as I mentioned before, he's got to be at the forefront of the list to trot, to nail down that position. I like the calmness that he brings. The only concern is maybe they've been so used to having Virat Kohli push everyone along so vehemently and lead the charge with emotion. I wonder if it's too big a change for them. I'm not too sure, but I think his calm head certainly marries up with some of the great leaders around the world at the moment. So it would be a fantastic appointment in my eyes if he got the long-term gig.
And we'll see Rahul Dravid take that side, I think, ahead to more great things. Has certainly got a great talent production line coming out of there. He's had a lot to do with it, with that under-19s and the A tours as well. All right, time for our next topic, and it is, come on, there it is, KHAWAJA Stacey Claim. Now, you've been on about this for a while, I know, but the Sheffield, those who haven't been following the Sheffield Shield match, is being played on a green mamba. Let's just say that. I've even seen people tweeting green mamba, so it must be a green mamba. Ball seaming around, and Usman Khawaja for Queensland gets us 70 runs. The next highest score was 13. The third highest score was 10. So that in your mind,
that was brutal.
Like, who else?
That was a brutal day for the Queenslanders. Brutal day for the Queenslanders, but just a fantastic day for Usman Khawaja fans. What about the job? What about the job he did out there? He just stands out in amongst the carnage. And if anyone was looking for someone who can stand up in tough situations on wickets that are offering plenty to the bowlers, then it's certainly shown to be Usman Khawaja in the lead up to this Ashes series against highly skilled bowlers who are moving the ball in the air and off the wicket. Which is the style of bowling that you'll see from England bowlers coming over. He stood up to it, even though he wasn't opening the batting. He effectively was. Let's face it.
Well, yeah.
They weren't hanging around the order of the Queenslanders, but certainly he's put his name up in headlights, and certainly I feel like that's enough for mine. We've seen enough now. We know how good a player he is, and he stands above everyone else in the comp now by a long way, and I just, again, will re-emphasise what I've said for weeks. He needs to start in that test lineup to give us every chance of winning, and that's what the Ashes is all about. You pick the best team, you pick the players that are going to give you the best chance to win, and he's one of those players in my eyes. I'm not sure about you. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, it's just not always about that, isn't it? People look back at previous things. I mean, his record in Test cricket does no harm to his chances at all, really, when you go back and look at it. I don't know. There's just sometimes this thing, well, we've got to look to the future or the next generation or whatever it is. And you're right. It's about winning the Ashes this year for Australia. One of the things I saw, there was a bit of back and forth between Ian Chappell sort of saying he wasn't sure if he was up to it at international level, and there was a bit of a cheeky comeback from Usman about, he'd take his advice from Greg, not Ian, which is all a bunch of fun. But do you see that? I mean, we could see that with a lot of players anyway. You can see Travis Head is another one who, performs incredibly well at domestic level. But then at times, he's found it difficult to keep his spot in the international side. So I just wonder how you see Khawaja at test level and how he's gone in the past. And if you think Ian Chappell was sort of right to make those comments, or if he's absolutely up to it at international test level.
No, look, I think if we start with Usman, I think that he is definitely up to it at test level. We've seen that for a long period of time. especially in Australian conditions. We know that he is a banker in Australian conditions historically. His form overseas was what let him down and left him out of the Australian Test team. And Travis Head, you're right, like he has struggled to hold his spot, but his form has been so belligerent in the last 12 months or 18 months of Shield cricket and one-day cricket. I'd love to see him in that lineup because I think he offers that side a really dynamic run-scoring option at 5, which can set opposition attacks on their heels. So that's my stand on those two players.
Good at a word in for the South Australian. There it is.
You gave me the opening by mentioning him.
Exactly, I did that just for you. Sam says Kerry O'Keefe discussed on Fox Cricket a couple of days ago that young Redbacks batsman Jake Carter should open for the first test. Thoughts, Callum, as a former Redback?
I love that he's being mentioned. He's been a great addition to the South Australian cricket team, no doubt about it. Everything I've heard coming out of that camp is that he's been fantastic. His work ethic, his attention to detail with training is fantastic. I'd have actually said that Henry Hunt is probably the pick of the two, though, at this stage, because Henry's been a nailed down banker at the top of the list for the Redbacks now for a couple of years. He's scored runs against the best attacks in Sheffield Shield cricket. Made 100 the other day at the Wacker on a bouncy wicket. I just think that he is such a huge talent. He's a guy that's so driven, and I've got no doubt that he'll be in the Australia A squad for this upcoming summer, and he'll play against the Lions, and I've got no doubt that he'll do well.
Excellent. Okay, time for our final topic of the day, and then there's one other thing I wanted to mention. Crunch time in the WBBL. We've sort of reached that stage of the tournament where the gap could start to really open now for those teams that are sort of down out of the top 4, and they need to get a wriggle on. So I just wanted your thoughts on that. When you talk about crunch time, it's also just yesterday commentating on a couple of the games. Boy, crunch time from Izzy Wong at your old joint, the Sydney Thunder, was impressive, but some other fantastic hitting around as well. And the Scorchers, well, when they're on, they're on. And the Stars, when they're off, man, they're really off.
Yeah, it's been a really tough tournament for the Stars so far. It must be an emotional roller coaster in that dressing room, because it just seems to be that 1 minute they're up, the next minute they're down, and when we say down, they are rock bottom. Like, it just seems to be so large a cavern between their best and their worst. It must be really difficult for Captain Meg Lanning to get a handle on that side. The Scorchers, though, I mean, they've been at their belligerent best, really. They've been putting a lot of sides to the sword. They have lost a couple of close ones, but certainly overall, some of their wins have just been enormous, and they're showing that they're a real threat in this tournament, if not the favourites. The Sixers have been an interesting watch throughout the tournament. I feel like they've shown some chinks in the armour this year, and I feel like they've just mucked around with that lineup a little bit. They just haven't been able to get any momentum, and you can understand why. At least Perry going to the top now, I think that probably needed to happen from the start. And just consistently all the way through the tournament with Alyssa Healy. Get your best players up there, up the top. If they're able to handle the new ball, then you get them up the top, give them a chance to make as big a score as possible. Looking at the game against the Strikers today, they look like they're going to end up with a mediocre total again after getting a decent start, but then having a bit of a collapse. So it'll be interesting to see who can get over the line there. If the Strikers win that, they're starting to show some momentum, but I really do think that at the moment the Renegades and the Scorchers are the two sides to chase, and I've been really impressed with the way the Renegades have gone throughout the tournament. They've just been fantastic to watch, and a real surprise packet this year after only winning 3 games last year.
Yeah, it's been amazing, and a tough year for the Thunder as well. Sam Colgan says, just want to say, loved Cal's debut on the weekend on the 7 cricket commentary. We all did. Well done. That was excellent.
Oh, thanks, Sam. Thanks, Mel. I really appreciate it. I'm going to blush in a minute. Be careful.
It was Sunday morning. I turned on my TV and there's Bharat Sundaresan on Offsiders, and then I turned over the WBBL and you're on there, and I sort of feel like, what's the common factor here? Huh?
Well, we're all watching you on Fox.
It's this show. It's the Star Makers of thing happening on YouTube. And Samak Joshi, Jemima is playing exceptionally well, will she? And Harmanpreet Kaur. They've been absolutely outstanding.
They really have been, haven't they? They've been great to watch. I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed about Jemima and Harmanpreet Kaur has been how they've been putting a lot of pressure on bowlers, playing great cricket shots, not just big slogs. So that's been great to watch, and I think a real hallmark of their batting at the Renegades. They've just been really consistent because they're playing good cricket shots and getting themselves set and setting a good platform and then going big late.
Yeah, they've been absolutely outstanding to watch. I did see Ramiz Raja suggest that there might be a women's PSL soon.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Can you imagine if there was
that would be groundbreaking. That'd be huge. That'd give them the jump on the IPL, no doubt about it. Especially now that there's cricket heading to Pakistan. How exciting is that?
Well, yes, that happening as well. The only reason I didn't go big on that is because I just want to wait until it's they've done the security checks, they've done everything else. I call me cynical. I want to wait before we get too excited because I can't face it. I desperately love to go, Cal. I want to go to Pakistan and cover cricket there.
Yeah.
So,
me too. I was really disappointed when the PSL wasn't in Pakistan this year and it was in the UAE. I love the UAE. It's a great part of the world, but certainly it would have been great to be in Pakistan, but not to be. Maybe we'll get over there and call some cricket at some stage.
All of them, like every single one, toes to. And just before we go, with you on here as well as our South Australian representative, I think it's worthwhile just mentioning Keith Bradshaw, a huge servant to the game, CEO for many years at the SACA, and also first non-English chair of the MCC over in Lords. Did so much for pink ball, day-night cricket, women's cricket, WBBL, a real innovator in the game, and just thoughts with his family gone far too soon, Cal.
Yeah, absolutely. He took the game to new frontiers, and obviously pink ball cricket, day-night test matches, particularly here in Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. Huge loss. Just a wonderful person. You knew you had a genuine person in front of you talking to you whenever you had a conversation with him. He was really disarming. He was just such a lovely guy. And he's just going to be missed. He really will be. I think his playing career is a bit understated too. Played 25 first-class games for Tasmania, some one-day cricket. Actually captained Tasmania in David Boone's absence at one stage. So was a fine cricketer as well, and he'll certainly be remembered fondly by the cricket community. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. So definitely thoughts with his family and friends. Hey, thanks again. Look, so much going on. The next time we do this show, well, we might know who the T20 World Cup champion is. So
I think we might,
a fair bit to go through before that. We'll see who's right. Which one of us gets it right about the finalists anyway. Who's your tip to win the final, by the way?
I'm all in on Australia. They're going to go all the way.
All in on Australia.
I'm all in, yeah. I just think they've got some momentum now. David Warner is flying. He's the kind of guy that's just going to get on a roll and make 70 in both games. So he's going all the way for Australia. Okay,
I'm sticking with Pakistan just because I love cake. Thanks to everyone
what a reason to go with them.
It's all about the cake. But thanks, Cal. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Do make sure you give us a subscribe and a like. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Sam. We'll see you next week, too. And until next week, enjoy your cricket, because I'm sure there's about to be a lot of it that's pretty awesome. Until next week. See you then.
See you guys. Bye.